from Mercer School of Medicine and completed his family medicine residency at ETSU, right here in Bristol, Tennessee. And he spent the first 12 years of his career in private practice in Georgia, where he was a founding member of a 3-physician group providing full hospital, nursing home, and clinic care. He is triple board certified in family medicine, palliative medicine, and integrative medicine. And then for the last 8 years, he served as the medical director for Erlanger Serious Illness Care, where he practiced integrative palliative care. Now, Dr. Johnson sees patients at his practice, Vital Life Medical Center or Care, inside of the Wellness Corner there in Chattanooga. And then he also serves as our medical director here at the center. So he does see patients virtually outside of, so you don't have to drive to Chattanooga to see him. But we are very honored to have Dr. Johnson a part of our team. He's been with us now for 6 months as our medical director. So for those that were with us on the last patient appreciation in November, he was just joining us. And the last 6 months have really been a beautiful collaboration and helping and supporting and encouraging our team and our patients. And we are just really grateful and honored to have him with us. So, Dr. Johnson.
Of course, none of it happens without charity, right? So, and JR too. You know, he's really the power behind the throne. You guys know JR. This happens at your house, I know it does. She wakes you up, right, and says, honey, you know, wake up, it's the so-and-so. So this is the phone call I got from Charity was, so I was up at 2 in the morning praying about a medical director, and I woke my husband up at 2 in the morning. So I was already relating right there. I was like, okay, that happens at my house. I was sound asleep. Why are you waking me up? Well, God woke me up and told us we should pray. And again, I'm thinking, but God woke you up. You were waking me up. My man JR said, why don't you go just Google some integrative doctors and see what comes up. I'll see you in the morning. He went back to sleep. This is mostly a true story. I mean, I wasn't there. I can't say for sure what happened, but she told me this is what happened. And then she reached out to me a few days later, and I mean, really, so she was prayer-led, involved in waking up her spouse in the middle of the night. So when she told me that story, what choice do I have? I feel like I must comply. So that's how I got involved with charity. But I'm so glad that I did, and I'm so glad that it was God's idea. And that's every time we interact, it always feels like God's idea, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes, it does. It's good, a good thing. So she wanted me to share one of God's ideas he had a long time ago when he made human beings, and he built us out of stuff. Would you believe that you and I are a lot like this? Just show and tell. Remember show and tell class? Little Timmy had to get up and he had to show his little cup of dirt and say, this is a cup of dirt in it, and show and tell. So, show and tell. I could pass it around. Do you want me to pass it around? I'll leave it here as a little visual. Raise your hand if you have had, currently have, or hope to have Legos in your house. If I came to your house right now, who would have Legos in their house right now? You don't have any Legos in your house? 2 hands? Yeah. So my loveliest associates today, David and Henry, have Legos to contribute. Boys, if you'll come up, pass off the coveted Legos. All right. I was really hoping for one of those. Just a basic building block. You know the one you step on? Yeah. I think I still have one embedded somewhere. Healing might be a choice, but avoiding Legos is choice number 1. Don't step on the Lego in the middle of the night. So, did you know I was going to talk about MTHFR? Was there some advertisement about that? I'm not here to talk about Legos. Although Legos are a pretty easy thing for us to understand. So MTHFR stands for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. Can you say that 3 times fast?
No, I can't.
Can you say it 1 time fast? Methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase is the name of a protein in our body. It turns out to be in every single cell in our body. You can remember it this way. MTH sounds a little bit like mother, and FR looks like father. So it's mother-father. You get 2 from your mother and 2 from your father. It turns out you get 2 of everything from your mother and 2 of everything from your father. What's important is, so we have 4 copies of every gene that we have. Those are called alleles. If you make a Xerox copy of an allele, of a gene, you get an allele. In our body, we have 4 versions of those MTHFR genes. If you have a mutation in one of them, then you have one of those 4 copies is gone bad. It's possible to have 2 or even 3 mutations in that gene, giving you mild, moderate, and severe disease. So we'll stick that off to the side for just a minute. Here's what's important about proteins. First of all, there's only 20 Legos. There are only 20 Legos out of which God built the whole thing. That's why it really would have been better to have. I can't believe you guys could come up with a single basic 4
We didn't know it was coming.
That's true. Totally unprepared, they stepped up to the plate. I mean, you know, I saw a young dude with a baseball cap. I said, "You got a Lego?" He was like reaching in his pocket. True story. Yes. And in my pocket, I got it. So, I lost my train of thought.
20 Legos.
Oh, thank you very much. So there are only 20 basic amino acids. Those are the building blocks of all proteins. If you stick those together in certain ways, you get various proteins. An protein is what does that mean really? It turns out that if you want to have something in your body that works, now those are Duplos.
I know, they're
And
not
those
normal
are,
Legos.
everybody knows. They don't really. Man, I appreciate the effort. I really do. I'll take one. I'll take one Duplo. Well, imagine that we blew up a Lego to life size. How's that? That'll do. All right. So, what's important, and this really is important, so if I lost you, come back. What's important is how God caused through powerful forces that we don't understand. We call it physical chemistry. He caused those proteins, when they begin to get long and stack on top of one another, they fold into a very particular 3-dimensional shape, and that's key. The 3-dimensional shape of a protein is what makes it behave the way it does. Here's an example. Hemoglobin. Nobody's heard of MTHFR, but everybody's heard of hemoglobin? Everybody's heard of hemoglobin, even if you don't know, it means you've heard of it. Hemoglobin is the name of a very big, complex protein. It's actually 4 proteins stuck together. And its 3-dimensional shape, just by happy coincidence, when it's inside the lung, it folds in such a way that oxygen fits inside of it perfectly. It's literally like a little catcher's mitt for oxygen. In fact, it holds 4 oxygens when it's in the lung. By the time it gets to your calf muscle, for example, the change in oxygen to carbon dioxide, you know that when we exercise, our muscles make carbon dioxide and then we breathe it off, right? You know that? So there's more carbon dioxide in my calf than there is in my lung. When the hemoglobin gets to the calf, it changes its shape again because of the presence of carbon dioxide, and it just so happens that it wants to spit the oxygen molecule out, which my muscle just happened to need at that precise moment. And it bends on the other side into a completely different 3-dimensional shape where a carbon dioxide molecule fits like a glove, like designed to go in there. And then of course it circulates back to my heart where it bends again, spits out the carbon dioxide, I breathe it off, and an oxygen molecule fits in the hole, and back it goes, right? Fearfully and wonderfully made. All that happens for free all the time, and all you have to do is give it dash or lick skillet food. Right? That's all you have to do to make that go, is just feed it good stuff. It's free, bonus, just go live. So 3-dimensional shapes of proteins are really, really very important. That's why they do what they do. That's how they do what they do. Every cell in your body is depending on those proteins, mostly through things we call enzymes. Those are just specific proteins that help everything else go faster. So, back to the Legos. Do you know how many cells are in the human body? Anybody? Cells are in the human body? Students in the room? Cells? How many cells in the human body? A lot.
Trillions.
Ah, how many trillions?
Lots of trillions.
Lots of trillions. 12 trillion. Come on. I mean, I didn't say stop. So we went from lots to trillions, and we got a yes. We got 12 trillions, and we got more. Anybody want to up the ante on trillions? Would you believe you're made out of 100 trillion cells? 100 trillion cells. Somebody put it this way. Actually, you're 100 trillion little pieces who all are playing nice in the sandbox together all the time. And it turns out we're made out of God's Legos. Those Legos are things like carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and that sort of stuff, if you can think of it that way, right? You with me? If you take a carbon atom and you put 3 hydrogens on it, you get a methyl group. He said something about a methyl. I've already heard methyl. Methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. So a carbon with 3 hydrogens on it is a methyl group. That methyl group, I told my son I would not tear this up. I want to get, you know what, I'll take this off. I could take his legs off. Anyway, if you can imagine a methyl group as one of these little tiny Legos, or if we blow it up to our 3-dimensional model. And you know how this works now, right? You just get a Lego and you stick it on the Lego and you stick it on the Lego and you stick it on the Lego, and after just a few minutes, ta-da, you have this, right? So, that's how it works. God appointed methyl groups to be the Lego of our body. Everything in our body is built out of Lego. The shape of the cell, the thing that makes the cell behave like the cell, the thing that makes the cell repair the cell, and the little gizmo down inside the cell that makes the juice of the cell. The mitochondria, you heard of the mitochondria? Mm-hmm. Inside of the mitochondria is where we make our energy, and life really is about energy, by the way. Death is really a very simple phenomenon when there's no more energy left in your body. You ran out of energy, poof, it's over. So making energy is really important. The way we make energy involves the swapping of these Legos. So 100 trillion cells in your body, thousands of times a second, every day, all day, are constantly popping a Lego off of this and putting a Lego on that, and popping a Lego on this, and putting a Lego on that, and popping a Lego off of here, and putting a Lego over there, constantly, all the time. There are a couple of places where it shows up more than any other, even though every cell in your body is doing that. Our blood vessels are tremendously dependent on methylation pathways to heal and repair the lining of the blood vessel. It turns out cholesterol has gotten all the press because it was a convenient prescription medicine that can make a lot of money if you took it. But cholesterol doesn't actually cause heart attacks and strokes. That simply isn't true. That's not actually what happens. It will clog an artery sooner or later, and if you get enough of it jammed up, that will stop blood flow and you can get heart attacks and strokes from that, but they don't cause heart attacks and strokes. They're just sliding along the highway, like Paul Simon said, believer gliding down the highway when in fact we're slip sliding away, right? They're just sliding along the highway, and as long as they don't bump into a pothole or a busted guardrail or a jammed up something, they're not going to snag. I slid all the way from Chattanooga to here, and I actually hit a few potholes. There's that stretch just south of Knoxville. Yeah. And it looks like those corn crop people in the night, somehow people ran out there right where your left tire should go and just went ka-chong, 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 ka-chong. Like, what in the world? This is on purpose. Somebody did this. This is a straight line. How did they do this? You know what I'm talking about. Dodging those, right? But I still didn't have a heart attack or a stroke because I was dodging those. The way our body heals and repairs little potholes in our blood vessels is a methylation-dependent pathway. Here's the point. If you want to do something to protect your cardiovascular health, ask yourself, how's the state of the inside of my blood vessels? And now you know that is controlled by the way I methylate things. Place number one. Second place that it shows up very commonly. Everything the way about our gut works, the way our intestines break down food, the way they extract food, the way they eliminate toxins, all of that is a 100% methylation-dependent pathway. So if you have a person who said she's always had a nervous stomach, or been told she has an irritable bowel, or been told she has inflammatory bowel disease, or she just has acid indigestion all the time, or her bowels are constipated, they run off. Whatever else may be going on, you can know at the end of the day, the cells that make it happen are using the same Lego that they use everywhere else, and that Lego is a methylation-dependent pathway. So if your methylation-dependent pathway is messed up, it could go a long way to explaining what's happening in your gut. And then the last place that I see it all the time in everyday life is in our brain. So the brain is kind of like this one-off, right? Inside, everybody else can kind of swap and talk, and anybody can eat cheeseburgers, and you can pass French fries around or whatever it takes. brain, you gotta get through something called the blood-brain barrier. And not everybody has permission to go through the blood-brain barrier, by the way. There's this very serious regulation mechanism who gets in and out of there. So that once you're on the inside, the brain has actually become a master at recycling things. It uses the same things over and over and over again. We call those neurochemicals. You've heard of them like things like dopamine, right? Dopamine is a chemical that helps our brain go, yes, this is great. And then norepinephrine is a chemical that helps our brain go, okay, now how do I focus on making this thing great happen? And then if it happens, serotonin comes along and makes us go, yes, life is good. And if that happens, then we use acetylcholine to recycle it, believe it or not, to adrenaline, back into dopamine so we can run the loop again. And would you believe it, that those molecules, they all look almost exactly like this, except one of them might have an extended cab, and one of them might have a big brush guard, and one of them might have a big satellite dish on it, but they're all basically a truck. They all basically look exactly the same, so that the brain, in split seconds of split seconds, can take one little Lego structure, if its methylation pathways are running optimally, and can, faster than the blink of an eye, quite literally, in the time it took you to blink your eye, your brain swapped out a couple of hundred Legos in the time it took you to blink your eye. But it uses those over and over and over and over and over again in our brain. There's a whole group of chemicals called serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, and those sorts of things. They get into space between brain cells and, I don't want to use too pejorative a word. They cause that system to malfunction, so that the Lego that was coming across in the form of a dopamine doesn't get broken down quite as quickly. Little Legos don't get popped off of it and turned into serotonin quite as quickly, which theoretically makes that dopamine stick around a little bit longer. And you can think about, David or Henry could actually play with the truck a little bit longer before David or Henry got the truck away from the other one and pulled it apart, which is what happens in my house. Things rarely stay put together in my house. They get pulled apart quickly. And little pieces all over the floor. Not as much anymore. So those are the three places in life where I see this show up very much. You with me so far? Methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, but we're just going to remember mother, father. Now we know they're present in every one of our 100 trillion cells. It's going on all the time. And the very basic building block of all that you call biological life is a methylation-dependent pathway. That's important, yes? So, if you could imagine if I had their entire supply of Legos right here on the floor, and I just dumped them out, and I said, go get it, boys. I mean, you would have to do, that's it. You would have to do it. In fact, if you just dumped and you hear that sound, clink, clunk, clunk, here they come, right out of the woodwork, they're ready. But they're not ever really going to become a recognizable structure until we put a Lego down in there, and they start sticking Legos together, right? So if methyl groups, which is mostly just a carbon, by the way, we get those in our diet through B vitamins predominantly. That's important to know. By the way, only animal products have B12. B12 does not exist in vegetable products. Somewhere along the way, you have to eat something that had a parent if you want to get B12 from nature. You can take a supplement, just so you know. You can get the other Bs, but not B12. B12 is actually one of the key ones. You have to eat something that's meat-based. Methyl groups are the Legos, but we needed a Legoer. That's the MTHFR protein. That particular three-dimensional shape of that protein allows it to grab a Lego off of Pirate Island and slap it on the Barbie Malibu Dream Home, bang, just like that, in the exact right spot. So Barbie does really have a dream home, not some janked up shack over here, right? Although that appears at my house too. There's some janked up Legos at my house, and you still have to say, oh, that's fantastic. It really kind of is, but boy, I'm glad you told me it was a spaceship, because it looked a lot like not a spaceship. Anyway, so there's our Legoer, putting it all together, making it happen. If you came in and you suddenly put oven mitts on David or Henry, how well is their Legoing gonna go? Are they gonna go poorly? Now, are they gonna leave? No, because they're boys and it's a pile of Legos, so they're just gonna push through, baby. They're just gonna hang in there and make this work somehow, start using their teeth or their toes or something, they're gonna figure this out. But it's not gonna work nearly as well. That's what an MTHFR defect is. If you have an MTHFR defect, what you have is a three-dimensional protein that can't grab onto the Legos like it's supposed to. So it malfunctions and it struggles and it has to work really hard. And the truth is, Barbie's Malibu Dream Home does not look nearly as good as it does. So in real life, that turns into little tiny deficits in the cell. It can't quite protect itself very well or can't quite function the way it wants to do. Or the most important place is, it can't make energy like it wants to. Here's why that's important. If your cell, any cell, in any moment thinks that it's not making energy the way that it wants to, for whatever reason, that signal and that signal alone is what empowers that cell to send off its I'm inflamed messages to everybody else around it. Inflammation starts with a cell that thinks I'm not making energy as efficiently as I want to. That is a methylation dependent pathway. Yeah? So, you can have mild versions of that, right? You can have just one oven mitt on, you can have two oven mitts on, you can have two oven mitts and a blindfold on, you can have variations on that, which is why I encourage everybody just about to get their MTHFR checked. It's a simple blood test. There's a saliva test, but the blood test gives you better information. There's not a major difference in the expense. Get your MTHFR checked, find out what that is. If you have an MTHFR deficiency, it turns out if I have oven mitts on David, it doesn't matter how many more Legos I pour into the scene, he's still not going to be able to work with them as well as he wants to, right? And it turns out, if that's a genetic abnormality, I can't actually get those oven mitts off. That's permanent. This is a birth defect. It's been going on since he was cooking in the womb, if he happens to have that defect. Since he was in the womb. But I can remedy it by giving him magic Legos. Magic Legos is what he needs. What he needs is a Lego that when it shows up in the cell, magically wants to come off of Pirate Island and magically go to just the right spot on Barbie Malibu Dream Home, even if he fumbles with it along the way. And those are called pre-methylated or the methylated versions of B vitamins, like methylated folate and methylated B12 and methylated B6 and B9 or activated B6 and all of those sorts of things. So the key is you have to begin to access in your diet on a regular basis methylated B vitamins. They don't occur in nature. They have to be manufactured in a laboratory. It's a simple process because God built our B vitamins to just have a bunch of sort of methyl groups on them, and you can easily stick an extra carbon with 3 hydrogens, methyl group, onto a B12. You can put 5 of them on if you want to. And they do just sort of want to pop off and go and help the cell do stuff without the cell having to be a de-oven-emitted Legoer. 50 to 70% of the world's population has at least one MTHFR mutation. 30% has at least 2, and 20% of that group has the most severe kind. 100% of people who come in my office and complain of long COVID have an MTHFR deficiency. When you support their MTHFR deficiency, their long COVID symptoms go away. They have other things too, but that's really important. So that's kind of what you need to know about MTHFR. And as you hear about it, you now know that's the name of a protein. What's important about proteins is their three-dimensional shape, and if they're not shaped three-dimensionally correct, they don't function correctly. And what's really important about that is this one is really involved in the way my body makes energy, and energy is what determines inflammation or not. Wherever that leads after that, that's domino number 1 is inflammation. And so if you really want to talk about de-inflaming yourself, you want to know your MTHFR status, and if you have it, you want to take a particular product that has pre-methylated B vitamins in it. There are a number of very good ones out there. You'll see one that Charity carries called Methyl Care. Here's why that's the one I personally recommend. One, Metagenics is an internationally acclaimed company for good manufacturing processes and promising you that there's no goop in there, and they guarantee that the right stuff is in there. It's a reliable product. But number 2 is it has all 4 of the pre-methylated B vitamins. There are lots of methyl this and methyl the other that have one or two. You need all four. It also contains two trace minerals called manganese and molybdenum, which are really important for your body to take it up. And it contains something called betaine, which is important for your muscles who really like the B12 to take it up. Plus, as a free ride, you get some N-acetylcysteine, which is the way our body makes something called glutathione, which is how we detoxify our body. So it's all handy dandy in one pill. So there are other products, and you can find other products. For me, because that's such a comprehensive treatment and it's such a good company, that's why I recommend that. I don't have an affiliation with them. I'm not getting a kickback for that. You might, now you know why Metagenics is on her shelf. Because I'm the boss, and that's what I told her. It's not true at all. There's a little label that says medical director though, so at some point if things go bad, they're going to call me the boss and say, no, it says you are the, no, but she did it. No, it says here. So that's the story with MTHFR. Thoughts, questions? Did that help you understand it a little better? Got a picture in your mind now? We're all made out of these. If we want to swap them out quickly, we got to have a really good Legoer down there. He has oven mitts on. He's going to struggle. She's going to struggle. We want to get those oven mitts off, but we can't, so we got to give them magic Legos. You don't have to have them every day for the rest of your life, but you do if you have that deficiency. You need to come to terms with the fact that never in your life has a natural diet supplied you with the kinds of B vitamins that your cells can use optimally. It takes about 4 to 6 months of taking a supplement for every cell in your body to get soaked and saturated in them, and about 2 more months for your liver to start storing up about a 2-month supply of them. So that after about 6 months of taking them every day, you can take them 2 or 3 times a week, and you can even miss a week or two if you need to along the way. But for the rest of your life journey, you will need to make sure that once or twice a week you're giving yourself a pre-methylated B vitamin, or the people in your house that you care about who need this. So you were going to ask a question?
Yes, about B12.
Yes.
All right. I don't know, which would be better, sublingual or liquid?
Yeah. It all depends.
On the company and what it is?
No.
No? Okay.
It all depends on whether or not you have an MTHFR problem.
Okay.
Because wherever you're trying to absorb it, under your gum, in your throat, out in the parking lot, it's going to have to go through a methylation-dependent pathway. So the very thing in your cells that causes you to soak up the thing that will fix your cells, if it's got oven mitts on, will not soak up the thing no matter what form it comes in.
Okay.
I prefer sublingual because this is a way more complicated system than this. This has blood vessels in it that allow you to soak things up way more efficiently. Vitamin D is done there. Sublingual B12 is there. The reality is, it doesn't matter how you get it in if you can't take it up at the cellular level, and that's what an MTHFR problem is.
I gotcha.
Or said another way, the root cause is not the route of administration. The root cause is my cell taking it up and utilizing it? And that's an MTHFR question.
Gotcha.
If you don't have an MTHFR problem, take it any way you want, but if you want to increase your B12 levels, sublingual gets it in your system faster. Sublingual is equal to intramuscular. Same. Other questions? Thoughts?
So if you find that you do have this defect,
Yes.
but then your body doesn't absorb, what do you do then?
It will
Okay,
over time.
got it. Okay, so
Right.
that's what you're saying. You
Yeah,
take
it
over
doesn't
time.
absorb zero. It
Got
will absorb some. And then as it gets some magic Legos, it will absorb some more. And then as it gets some more magic Legos on a consistent 4 to 6 month basis, it'll absorb some more and some more and some more. And finally those cells, even though they still have enough unlimited data down in there, can deal because he's seeing all these magic Legos all the time.
Right.
And everybody downstream gets that effect.
And like you said, then your body's, you can store up.
Then your liver
Then
will
you
store
can
up.
start
Yes,
decreasing the amount
Yeah.
that you take.
exactly.
And this is all the root cause inflammation of pretty much every disease.
In my experience, the current theory is that inflammation is not your friend, and that it's behind most of what we call chronic diseases. In my experience, this is an example of true root cause inflammatory process. Yet you can throw a bunch of goop on the side that can toxinate you, you can stress, you can not sleep, and you can do all kinds of bad things. But that's a root cause. You really can get down in the soil of your inflammation and change the soil that you're growing in. And then all the rest of your system works better. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned the relationship between long COVID and MTHFR. Could you expound on that a little bit, please?
No. I can tell you that what I said was my experience in my office is anyone who comes to me and complains of long COVID, when I look for MTHFR, 100% of them have a defect. And they had a 50-50 chance. So the fact that 100% of them, they always have an MTHFR, and that 90% of them within months have complete resolution of their symptoms, tells me that MTHFR was playing a huge role in my clinical experience of people complaining or have been labeled as long COVID. I'm not saying there is a direct one-to-one relationship, but I offer that as an example of if you start looking for root causes of things, a lot of times the symptoms will begin to improve. So, yes.
I've been tested, I know I have that, and I have a lot of inflammation, like so stiff and sore, constant pain.
Yep.
I would take those, the whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, that would help. I mean, would that help with my pain? It's like every day is a struggle.
Yeah, theoretically it should,
Okay.
right? Because pain is very complicated. A lot of it involves neural pathways, both actual physical nerve tissue, which depends on methylation, especially B12, to be healthy nerve fibers, and then the chemistry that moves up and down is methylation dependent chemistry. So, do you happen to know your mutation? Are you willing to share it in public?
I can't remember, I know it's more than one.
Yeah, I would have bet
Can't
it was
remember.
more
I'm
than
gonna have to
one.
go
My
home and
guess is
look at
you're
it.
double heterogeneous. By the way, this is free information. You want some free information? It's all free. So actually, it's costing her some beef stew. So you can also look for something called a COMT mutation. That's a whole other talk. COMT. It's a particular chemical, mostly in our nervous tissue. It's kind of a sister to the MTHFR. It has to do with
I
the
have
way
that
that
one
we
too.
kind of. And so people who have both, which is why I brought it up. My heart was telling me you probably have both. That's a very different situation because if you just treat the methylation pathway, you'll make the COMT pathway worse, and they'll have a paradoxical reaction. Things will get worse, and they won't then begin to get better. So you have to support the COMT as well, which is truly a whole other conversation. I'm sorry I can't address that, except to tell you that SAMe can be a place to start instead of methyl groups to support the COMT first, and then the methyl groups. But that's a whole other. And I'm not trying to drum up business. I promise. The last thing I need to be is busier. But feel free to schedule a visit if you
I
want
will.
to go into
Thank you.
conversation with that. So I think I've run over my time. I'm so sorry. But my friend Jeannie, who gets to cut to the front of the line, she actually has my direct text cell. So she actually can physically cut to the front of the line. She did this week, as a matter of fact, twice. Yes, ma'am.
Just as a general, I know you've talked with us a little bit, but maybe someone else has the same question. Because it is so common in our population, would it hurt for people to go ahead and take a methylated form of B12 until they find out, or if they're not able to do the testing immediately?
100%. In fact, here's a common scenario. Test a parent who's loaded with it, explains a lot of their troubles, they begin to improve, and then they come back in and they go, and Ricky is just like me. I got 5 of them at home, and that one I spit right out of my mouth. He doesn't sleep like I don't sleep, he fusses like I fuss, he has indigestion like I had indigestion. But he's not gonna come for a needle stick in his arm, I can tell you right now. Okay, it's a harmless product. Nothing bad will happen if you take it, unless you have concomitant COMT. So something starts to, and by the way, you won't die, nothing bad will happen, but you will feel lousy. So if you take methyl care and you feel lousy instead of good, and I'm talking about within a few days, you probably have a double COMT mutation. You need to address that as well. Not many people do, less than 7%. But it's complicated. So yes, commonly I'll have parents who have it give it to their children, and then I call that the laboratory view. If in 4 to 6 weeks everybody likes Ricky better, and Ricky likes Ricky better, and Ricky's everybody, if Ricky comes to us and says my life is better, that's probably as good as a blood stick. And since it's a genetic blood test that's never going to change, you can wait a long time to have that. So a common strategy for some people is, well, darn, I'm just going to take that and monitor my own life and see if I think better, sleep better, move better, have more energy, digest better, all of that sort of stuff. What happens to me? Now, it's gradual, by the way. It's a slow, steady thing. It's something you would watch for over weeks and months. In the first several weeks, most people don't notice anything at all. But usually about a month in, most people will start to say, well, I've noticed this is oftentimes energy, mood, digestion, sleep, concentration, those sorts of things begin to just get better in your life. So yes, you can experiment and see what the laboratory review tells you. Other questions? I'm sorry, that was a lot of information.
But you did it well.
That's like an entire textbook that I scrunched down. Yeah, it's a lot of big words in the textbook. Yeah. So, other questions? Do you feel like you have a better understanding of MTHFR? Yes? Better understanding? It comes up at the next Sunday school party and they're passing the donuts around and she says, I think I may have the MTHFR. You're like, oh, you have a Lego problem. Your Legos are just like Barbie Pirate Island. Your Pirate Island is no good.